Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturning. For the Christmas Ornament Challenge last week, I turned these two herringbone style Christmas ornaments with a nice herringbone pattern in them. And I had a lot of leftover wood from that glue up, from the offcuts outside. So I took those and glued them together to make this ornament. It hasn't got quite the same effect, but still with the padauk in between, it still has a very good and nice effect. So we're going to use up the leftovers. This is leftovers week for this week. But one thing I didn't appreciate last week was, well, 1/4 inch tenons for my finials get, in my opinion, a little bit small. My personal preference. So this week I made the tenons 3/8 inch, which then meant that I could not use my pen mandrel to finish turning the body. So I upsized the pen mandrel with this device. It is a threaded wood faceplate with a T-nut embedded inside, and a knob on this side, and a long 3/8 inch bolt in between that screws into the base. So, and with a couple of bushings, I was able to turn the body with a 3/8. So it's essentially a upsized pen mandrel. And I have a kit now where I have different sized bolts, so that I'll never have too long of a bolt. But one other thing that I did, I'm preparing to do, and you'll see this next week, is another actually upsized herringbone ornament. So we'll see what we do with this next week. Meanwhile, however, the Christmas Ornament Challenge is in full swing. I invite you to send in your ornament and join with the fun and this season of sharing that we have in this Christmas season. There's a lot of bad stuff going on around us. Let's use this occasion to share a little bit of our craft, a little bit of our art, and appreciate the spirit of Christmas. So get yours in by November 30. Meanwhile, let's turn this out of our leftovers of last week. As described in my most recent video, a herringbone glue up is a process of layering up many small pieces of wood at an angle to each other. I used that block in that video, but did not want to waste the extra wood that I cut off from that blank. Once glued together, I marked the center of the new block. However, the cuts were made 3/4 inch away from that center. In my case, the offcuts were nearly as substantial if I put them together as the center block. I used that center block in the last video. It is the prime result from the glue up. The question now is what to do with the remainder. One option would be to simply glue the two pieces together. This would yield a block nearly like the original center block, but without the center overlap and with potentially slight mismatches at the center intersections. Instead, I decided to glue the two offcuts to a 1/4 inch thick piece of padauk. This would mask any center mismatches and make the block more square. After a little trimming, I have mounted this new block between centers on the lathe. It will not have the same precision as the last ornament, but should still be a pretty ornament. Now the task is to round off the wood and, what else? Cut a tenon for a chuck mount. Now that it is mounted into the chuck, I can start shaping with my spindle gouge. No perfect sphere this time. I want kind of an elongated shape. I do not know if it has a specific shape name. Before I go any further, I had better drill a hole through the interior. This time the hole will be 3/8 inch. I find tenons easier at 3/8 inch than 1/4 inch. This will drive another change that I will show you a bit later. After this, I can finish shaping, then sand. However, as I started to sand, I noticed that the padauk dust was staining the lighter wood by sticking in the pores. I decided to apply some sanding sealer now at a coarse sand to seal pores up before moving to finer grits and finer dust. However, with a larger center hole, I do not want to use a pen mandrel. I could have by making some bushings. Instead, I made a special holding jig with a 3/8" hex bolt, a T-nut, and a knob. Plus, I made a couple of wood bushings to keep the ornament body away from the bolt. With this mandrel equivalent, I can refine and shape and sand. I did have to adjust for a bit of wood crumbling at the thin point. After sanding, I applied shellac friction polish. Note how much the padauk is staining my paper towel despite a thorough cleaning after sanding. Now for the finials. This wood is hazelnut, which I really like for finials. The main feature is the herringbone body. These finials do not take away from the herringbone feature. This time I chose to cut 3/8" tenons on both ends of the wood. I do not want to waste any wood from this small block. Fitting a tenon is always a pain for me. It seems that they are always either a little too big or a little too small. I am shaping most of the top tenon before parting it off. This finial will be slightly longer than last time and somewhat mimic the shape of the body. Then flip the top finial around to refine the tip and drill for a hanger. Then sand and apply shellac friction polish. One finial completed. Now for the bottom finial. Mostly I'm using my skew but switching to a spindle gouge when a steep concave curve is desired. The one problem is the lack of wood between the exposed finial and the chuck. However, the bottom of the body is very small, so this will be okay. After sanding, I burned lines at key inflection points. No, I do not want the finial outshining the body, but burned lines will provide just a little more definition while not overpowering the body. Again, shellac friction polish. Finally, a quick buffing. I use a long buffing adapter from Holdfast. This is essentially a spindle extender with a 3/8" thread opposite the motor. To this I mount standard 8" buffing wheels. The ones I found had a center shaft that was bigger than 3/8 inch, but I simply drilled out a dowel to receive a 3/8 inch bolt and a couple of washers and nuts. This enables me to exchange the buffs quickly. I also have a Beal triple buff system. This setup, however, gives me more options to buff a larger variety of items such as bowls that do not do well on the triple buff. No, this is not a full herringbone pattern, but I was able to use up my scrap. I have another variation in the works for next week. I invite each of you to send in your ornament picture for the Ornament Challenge before November 30. Meanwhile, explore the great ornaments already submitted. They are great ornaments from simple to complex. Check them out. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe on my website, and tell your friends. I appreciate your comments and questions. Every week I make a new woodturning video and add it to my website. As usual, I appeal for you to wear your full face shield for safety anytime that lathe is running. I will see you next week for another woodturning video. Meanwhile, be wise in these COVID times and stay healthy.